Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and temperature over the next 5 days. This coming working week we do have a lot of rain in the forecast, especially in the south and the west. We've got lots of areas of precipitation pushing up from the south. We've got a southerly wind, but along with that precipitation it's actually going to be really quite warm and humid, and looking quite likely most areas getting into the mid to high teens this week, if not touching on 20 degrees. Now, that may not sound too exceptional coming off the back of summer, but for the middle to end of October, that is really quite warm indeed, and it could mean if you do see some dry weather this week, you could even whip out the shorts once again. Probably, though, for the last time this year, and probably for the last time until maybe April time. So yeah, quite a warm week incoming, but there will be a lot of heavy showers, precipitation, and maybe even the odd thunderstorm as well, because that energy associated with the warmer air mass is going to mean that rain is of course going to be a little bit heavier than if it was a colder air mass. It also looks likely, as we head through the longer term, we look at the GFS, GM, ESMWF and the ensembles, we do return more towards average towards the end of the month. It is looking likely, though, that we don't stay too much below average. More around average, maybe slightly above for the upper air temperatures, and some of the models today have got a bit more of a northerly or westerly flow in the longer term, of course, meaning it's going to be slightly cooler, but of course more unsettled. So have a look at that in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Also, if you are interested on the winter, the upcoming winter, make sure you do check out the winter look ahead that was published yesterday. It was our second one, having a look at the potential for a colder first half of the winter and milder, wetter second half of the winter. That's what we're thinking at the moment, so make sure you do check that out, because of course, if we are going to be seeing a colder start to the winter, we're going to be starting seeing that in our daily videos perhaps within the next few weeks, or at least a hint of that in the extended range of runs like the GFS and the ensembles. So yeah, if we do start on the live radar, you can see we did have a lot of precipitation that swept through overnight, as we now have a southerly flow pushing in all the precipitation heading in from the south and the west, giving quite a widespread soaking in many areas seeing a good few millimetres of rain at least. But it is looking reasonably dry now across England and Wales. A few lingering showers as I'm recording this around 9-10 a.m. and a few showers up across Scotland. Some of these quite heavy, especially over the hills. But today, once again, we're going to see more showers push in, and it's going to be quite a mild day. If you put on those temperatures, as I said, around 9 a.m, look at that. Loads of yellows. This is almost the daytime highs from a few days ago. Just showing you that the very warm air mass is now pushing in. Again, it's nothing exceptional, but it's a good 5 to 10 degrees above average. Not quite perhaps the Indian summer pattern we alluded to perhaps 5 days ago or so, just slight different wind direction shift, and we're slightly more within the lower pressure. So yes, although we are going to see a very, very warm upper air mass, it doesn't look likely that the surface will quite reach those sort of Indian summer thresholds of the mid-20s, and it doesn't look like it's going to be completely dry or even widely dry. So it will feel warm out there, but it won't feel anything exceptional because of the precipitation. If you go over to the UKV now and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, you can see all that precipitation that headed through earlier this morning. And over the course of this afternoon, we've got showers in a few areas, but actually not too many, but maybe some creeping into the southeast later this evening. And overnight into Tuesday, we do see thicker cloud arrive from the south into tomorrow afternoon, and that will be indicating more showers pushing in. You can see through the late hours of Tuesday into early hours of Wednesday, heavy precipitation pushing in. This could be in the form of some very heavy thundery showers, perhaps looking at the colours within these precipitation bands, but we'll just have to see what happens in reality. As we head through Wednesday, it's quite cloudy with some patchy showers. Again, it will be very interesting to see whether we do see any convection with this. This is looking possible here, but not certain. As we head beyond that into Thursday, more heavy thundery rain pushing up from the south and the west, spreading in, and again more batches, maybe even heavy thunderstorms in the south and the east later this week, before eventually it does clear northwards and eastwards again, just bringing in loads of heavy thundery showers at times. Again, it's going to be very difficult to say the exact intensities of these. As you can see, the bands here are very hit and miss, so we'll have to see later this week, but for at least the next 24 to 48 hours, Nothing too extreme perhaps until Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning, where we start to see a weather front push up from the south and the west. Initially just some heavier rain, but we could see some thundery weather mix in with that. And again, for later than that, we'll probably wait until tomorrow's video because there is still a lot of uncertainty with positioning. This is all when we get this moisture thrown up from the south. The reason why we've got these very warm air masses, or very warm surface conditions and potentially thundery weather, is because we've got a very warm air mass pushing in. Look at those upper air temperatures getting up towards 10, 12 degrees later this week. So very, very warm, colliding with a colder air mass in the north, but of course the warmer air mass does win out. If you look at these surface temperatures, you can see this afternoon perhaps 16 to 18 degrees quite widely across parts of England, maybe even the isolated 19 degrees into Wednesday. Tuesday, you see the overnight temperatures do drop down because we do have clear skies, but you can see through Tuesday afternoon, still rising once again to 16 to 18 degrees. No on 19 there, but still is possible. Of course, being warmest in the south because we're close to that warmer air mass. And into Tuesday night to Wednesday, still very mild in the south, cooler in the north because we've got more precipitation in the south and thicker cloud. And Wednesday afternoon, you can see it is quite a bit cooler widely with more precipitation around, but still 16, 17, 18 degrees in the far south. You can see across the coast into France, across the Channel, mid-20s, 22, 23, 24 degrees is possible there. Of course, into Thursday, overnight temperatures not dropping much below mid-teens, perhaps in the far south. Into the London area, 16 to 17 degrees, very humid, muggy night. And into Thursday afternoon, you see those temperatures rising into 20-degree range, 18, 19 widely, and 20 degrees seen down in the southeast corner. So very, very warm on Thursday, and we'll see that continue into Friday as well, potentially seeing 18, 19 degrees there, maybe 20 isolated once again. So a very warm week incoming, potentially some thundery weather, so a lot to potentially play for. But of course, if you do miss out on the thundery weather, you do miss out on the showers, especially if you're slightly further northwards and eastwards, but you still tap into that warmer air mass. We could still see some very pleasant days out there. So if you do see some sunnier weather out there, some warmer weather out there, and you look out the window and you think, oh, it's going to be chilly out there, but it is actually going to be quite warm. We're in quite a warm air mass this week. So if you do see any sunshine out there, any drier patches of weather, it's going to be actually quite pleasant indeed. So I hope you all do enjoy this week where we do avoid the precipitation. If we now go over to the GFS and see what that is showing over the next couple of weeks, you can see low pressure running in off the Atlantic at the moment, but with a southerly tilted flow, which is throwing moisture in and bouts of precipitation, but also, as I said, a very warm air mass. Eventually the low pressure pushes through, and we see the wind veering more from the north to westerly direction, and that continues all the way to the longer term, and right into the extended range we actually see low pressure drop out of Greenland, and this actually plunges us into a very cold northerly wind. Nothing exceptional, but very cold for this time of year. It's because we've got some blocking high up towards Greenland and northeast Canada. Perhaps a similar signal to what we saw in the winter look ahead yesterday for the start of November. Again, we can't say for certain. We need some consistency in these runs, but a northerly flow there going there. Quite a cold air mass, nothing exceptional, nothing would produce snow or anything, at least for at the time, because it's got quite a long sea track, so the -5 line will actually struggle to get in, really. Probably just stay exactly where it is if we did continue this northerly airflow, just because of the time of year and the strength of that air mass. But it still would be really quite cold, and the temperature deviations a good 2 to 4, maybe even 6 degrees below average, and you can see it better on the potential equivalent temperature, a flood of cold air coming out of the Arctic. Again, something we need to keep an eye on in the longer term. If you have a look at the GEM, see how that does compare over the next 10 days. Again, low pressure running at the moment, southerly flow. Eventually, high pressure topples. We do stay with generally southerly flow all the way perhaps into next week, so still a relatively warm air mass next week. Could see the 10 or 15 degree isotherm pushing there for a time, so GEM definitely holding warm air into next week. But as we go towards day 10, you can see definitely more of a westerly influence. That warmer air, yes, it's trying to be pushing in from the south, but it's coming round the low more, coming in from the North Atlantic. So very long sea track, so it's not particularly cold at all, but it is much more towards average. You can see that slightly cool air feeding in there from the North Atlantic. So again, more towards average probably in the GEM today, but keeping us fairly unsettled with low pressure around. That's a common theme, though. Yes, the GFS goes colder in the longer term, but it remains fairly unsettled. Still, we had to see some prolonged blocking patterns from the models. We've seen hints through for the last few days and the last couple of weeks, but nothing absolutely sustained. So that is interesting. We need to see what happens with that, because the longer term outlook, as I said in the winter look ahead, is promoting that blocking, the application of the jet stream. We're seeing bits and bobs of it, but nothing too sustained, anything too major at this stage. If you have a look at the ECMWF, to finish the video, you can see again low pressure running in off the Atlantic, but with a southerly flow, very warm at least for a time, but as we head towards day 10, more of a westerly flow. Yes, it's coming from a slightly south to southwesterly direction, but feeding around the low, it's actually originating from Greenland, so it is a relatively cool air mass, but it actually, at the surface, is a relatively cool air mass because of the long sea track, though it's more probably towards average. You can see that there. Lots of whites over the UK, so around average for this time of year in terms of upper air temperatures. So yeah, interesting. Again, following very similar to the GEM and keeping that very unsettled theme that the GFS had as well. Now, if we finish the video by having a look at the GFS and ECMWF ensembles, you can see for the next 5 days or so, we're well above average. Look at that, good 10 degrees above average later this week, around Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time, peaking around 13 or 14 degrees at 850 HPA for a time. Very warm indeed, before returning more towards average in the longer term, maybe even slightly above average. But again, a lot of spread from the ensemble members, so we'll have to see what happens with that. And you can see huge precipitation continue, so looking very likely that we remain very unsettled. And if we do finish, again, have a look at the ECMWF ensembles. Midnight run hasn't fully come out, so have a look at the midday run from yesterday. Very similar, warmer for the next 5 to 7 days. Actually remaining well above average for the longer term. Very few actually dipping towards average or below average. I do suspect there's a bit of an anomalous run, definitely a shift towards warmer than average conditions, but we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks. But it does look definitely very unsettled. That's a very big consistency we've seen over the last few days and the last week in general. So it looks a very unsettled outlook towards the end of October. We'll just have to keep an eye on those air masses though. All depends on positioning of the jet stream, where those low pressure systems do end up, whether it's a southwesterly or more of a west to northwesterly in the mid-range. That will decide the sort of upper air temperatures we do see. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.